Have you ever looked in the mirror and thought, hey, I've got my mom's eyes, but my dad's hair? Or maybe you've wondered why a certain trait seems to just skip a generation in your family. Well, that's one of the oldest mysteries of life, a puzzle that connects every single living thing on this planet. Today, we're going to crack that code. We're going to unpack the fundamental rules that govern who we are. So here's a weird question for you. What do garden peas have to do with your family tree? It sounds like a joke, right? But the answer is pretty much everything. The secret to why you look the way you do was first unlocked in a quiet little garden, all thanks to the humble pea plant. And today, we're going to solve that scientific mystery, step by step. Okay, but before we dive in, let's get one thing straight. The science of genetics, what we're talking about today, is all about hereditary traits. We're talking about stuff passed down from your parents, like your eye color or whether your hair is naturally curly. We are not talking about acquired traits. Those are things you learn or get from the world around you, like becoming a great piano player or getting a scar. Genetics is about the blueprint, not the renovations. So, every good mystery needs a detective. And the detective in our story is this man, Gregor Mendel. Today, we call him the founder of heredity, and for good reason. He was the first person to look at this puzzle and say, you know what? I'm going to use a system. I'm going to use science to figure this out. He didn't just watch things happen, he made them happen. Now, part of Mendel's genius was choosing the perfect tool for the job, and his tool was the pea plant. Why peas? Well, think about it. They're super easy to grow. They have a really short life cycle, so he could study generation after generation pretty quickly. They also produce a ton of offspring, lots of seeds, which meant he had plenty of data to work with. And, this is the most important part, they have really simple, obvious contrasting traits. A plant was either tall or short. Its seeds were either yellow or green. There was no in-between. All right, so Mendel sets up his first experiment, and this is where the mystery really kicks off. He decided to focus on just one simple trait to start, the color of the seeds. He knew that some of his pea plants always produced yellow seeds and others always produced green seeds. The big question was, what happens if you cross them? His method was incredibly careful. First, he started with what he called pure breeding plants. That just means his yellow seed plant came from a long line of only yellow seed plants. And the same for the green. Then he very carefully took pollen from a yellow seed plant and used it to fertilize a green seed plant. He made them cross-pollinate. So, what do you think happened? A mix? Yellow-green seeds? Nope. This was the first shocking clue. Every single one of the new plants, the offspring, produced yellow seeds. 100% of them. The green trait had just vanished. It didn't blend, it didn't mix, it was just gone. So where did it go? Now this is where Mendel's true brilliance comes in. He looked at that result and thought, okay, the green trait didn't just disappear into thin air. There have to be some hidden rules at play here, some kind of factors controlling what we see on the surface. So he started to lay out the rules of inheritance. He called the trait that actually showed up, in this case the yellow seeds, the dominant trait. It seemed to dominate or mask the other one. He figured that a plant only needs to inherit one factor, what we now call a gene, for that dominant trait for it to show up. And the trait that was hidden, the green seeds, he called that the recessive trait. It was still there, lurking in the background, but you couldn't see it. Mendel reasoned that for a recessive trait to actually appear, a plant must inherit two of those recessive factors. And to keep track of all this, he came up with a simple code, a kind of genetic equation. We still use it today. We use a capital letter for the dominant gene, so big Y for yellow, and a lowercase letter for the recessive one, little y for green. So a pure yellow plant is big Y, big Y. A pure green plant is little y, which means that all those first-generation plants, the ones that looked yellow, were actually hybrids. Their genetic code was big Y, little y. They were carrying the hidden green gene. Okay, so Mendel has this whole theory about dominant and recessive genes. But a theory is just an idea until you can prove it. The next step was the real test, the moment that could make or break everything. If he was right, he should be able to predict exactly what would happen next. This was the case-closing twist. So what did he do? He took those hybrid yellow seed plants from the first generation, remember, their code is big Y, little y, and he just let them self-pollinate. He was essentially crossing two hybrids that both carried that hidden green gene. What was going to happen? Would the green trait stay hidden forever? We can actually predict the outcome with a super simple tool called a Punnett square. It looks like a tic-tac-toe board, but it's really a genetic prediction tool.
You put the possible genes from one parent on top, big Y and little y, and the genes from the other parent down the side. Then you just fill in the boxes. And what you see are all the possible combinations for the next generation. The math here predicts we should get some big Y, some big Y, and even some little y, little y.
So what happened when Mendel actually planted the seeds and counted them? The result was astounding. The recessive green trait, it came back, and not just randomly. About 75% of the plants had yellow seeds, and 25% had green seeds. That is a perfect 3-to-1 ratio. It's exactly what his model, his rules, predicted would happen. The case was closed. That predictable 3-to-1 ratio was all the proof he needed. It led him to create his first law, which we now call the principle of segregation. Now, it sounds a little complicated, but the idea is actually simple. It just means that an organism's 2 genes for a trait split up, or segregate, when it makes reproductive cells. Then they recombine at random when a new organism is made, leading to these really predictable mathematical outcomes. So, okay, P's, ratios, dominant, recessive. Why does any of this matter to us? Because, and this is the incredible part, these rules don't just work for pea plants. They are the fundamental principles of heredity for almost all life on Earth. And that includes you and me. Let's make this real. Check this out. The ability to roll your tongue into a tube, that's a classic dominant trait. Having free earlobes that hang down instead of being attached to the side of your head, also dominant. Things like having curly hair or dimples follow these same rules. You inherited a combination of genes from your parents that decided these things, just like the color of a pea seed. Think about it. Mendel's work in that garden laid the foundation for all of modern genetics. It's led to everything from our ability to understand genetic diseases to creating life-saving medicines. He literally gave us the rulebook for the code of life. So the big question for us, all these generations later, is now that we know the rules of the game, what new chapters are we going to write?